Let's get cozy. Welcome to the Midnight Series, where we slip into our PJs and lean into the uncomfortable, one late night conversation at a time. Think of this as your late night sleepover with friends, the kind where conversation gets real after the lights go out. So slip into your PJs, grab your favorite beverage, and let's begin.
We're talking about your battle with spiritual warfare, which I think is really
Yeah.
interesting that we had my episode first and really talked about all that and my experience, at least. And it's not even, I don't even think I fully went into depth, right? I didn't fully go into like my childhood and stuff, right? It was just what happened leading up to the.
Yeah, it was only really about what happened when we were together. You didn't really touch on, you kind of like alluded to January where you were just kind of anxious and having
Yeah.
bad dreams, but you didn't really touch on the magnitude because I know you've told me stories like in
Yeah.
private about those nights,
Yeah. Of like just sin.
where you were like tearing
Yeah.
your
Oh,
necklace
yeah. My
off and like your
shirt.
t-shirt, like ripping your
Yeah.
t-shirts.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. And I was just having, I literally felt like I was being suffocated, um, choked. It was the weirdest thing. I
Yeah.
guess they're kind of the same thing, but yeah, I remember one, it was just like really heavy. Like I felt like pressure on me. And so that's why, like,
Mm-hmm.
like I think that's why I ripped my shirt. And then the one that I felt like I was being choked out is when I ripped my necklace. And there are two instances I ripped a
Yeah.
necklace. There is one that was my astrology necklace. And so I took it as like, oh my gosh, it's my
Mm-hmm.
astrology necklace. Like I shouldn't do that. But then not even that much later, I had like my other cross necklace, not this one. And I ripped it off. And to this day, I still can't find that cross, which is so wild. I don't know where it went. Yeah.
Really?
I'm
And it's got to be
It
like
has
somewhere
to
in your
be. Exactly.
room.
Like I remember ripping it off right by the doorway. Like I got up and I jumped up and I was freaking out. And I ran through the door and I just ripped it off. And I looked all through the carpet, like couldn't find it anywhere. Um, so yeah, we
Yeah.
might need to do, I think I need to actually sit down and kind of write out everything that I went through. I
Mm-hmm.
do outline I guess I struggle a little bit with it in my testimony too. And then finding Isaiah, but I think that actually should be another episode where I dive into everything. Well, let's hear about yours and then I'll see if mine is parallel to it as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, so this was probably a week ago. I had a really weird dream where in my dream I had broken my collarbone and I had gone to the doctor and they're like, well, we want to do a full MRI on you. And I started hyperventilating in the dream and I was like, I don't want to do that. Like I'm super
Yeah.
claustrophobic. I don't, I just was panicking. And eventually I ended up doing it. And in the scan, you could see, it was so weird. You could see like all these little bugs
Oh,
going from my ear to my brain. And it was like hundreds of them, little tiny bugs. And then the doctor told me that I like was
wow.
sick. And, so I woke up the next morning and that like really freaked me out. So I feel like I was perpetuating the anxiety of that because I suffer from anxiety and from like
Yeah.
hypochondriac
Yeah.
syndrome. So I'm like, oh my gosh, I'm sick, all this stuff. And so I start praying. And instead of thinking, okay, maybe God is wanting me to see something from this dream, it's not
Hmm.
literal, right? Like a lot of dreams in the Bible are kind of
Yeah.
crazy like that, but they'll mean something completely different. And so I finally get to a point where I'm like, what do you want me to see? And it was basically like the bugs in your ear are making your brain sick, like outside
Oh, yeah.
forces, even as far as like news outlets, social
Yeah.
media, other people's voices that are not
Hmm.
his. Be careful, they will make you sick,
Yeah.
essentially. Like you're not dying, but this is a real serious thing. And so I went and we stayed at the beach with Mama. We did a girls' weekend, and I was just like anxious the whole weekend. I was not myself. I kind of was like in and out, trying to be present with Phoebe because it was her last weekend before she started school. But you know, when you have like really bad anxiety and like excessive
Yes.
OCD, it's like you're there, but you're
It
not there.
the
You're
best way I
trying to be
can, like,
present, but you're
describe
not.
it is, when you have, like, a throbbing headache and you can't even focus on anything else
Yeah.
but the headache, that's how it is with
Yeah.
anxiety and OCD. It's like
Yeah.
you're trying so hard to be present, but, like, you can't.
Yeah.
It's just
Yeah.
overpowering.
It's like you're in two separate. Yeah. And so that's how I felt. I felt like my brain was like, I just was not well. I'm pushing it back. Like, I'll deal with it when we get home. I want to be with her, this last weekend and really be present. And so I tried, and we had some really good moments, but then we get home, I go to sleep, and I have this, and I was fine when I went to bed. I don't feel like I was anxious. I was, got her to sleep, and then I was reading my book, and then I fell asleep. And then I woke up and I was like drenched in sweat back here. And I don't sweat in my sleep. I don't move in my sleep. I don't snore. I'm just like, I curl up in a little ball to the side and I sleep. Like that is, there's nothing extra going on
Yeah.
there. But I'm waking up, I'm sweating, I'm like hyperventilating. I immediately jump out of the bed, which I don't typically do that either.
Mhm.
Like I'll just sit up and be like, "Whoa, that was a weird dream." But so physically I'm not okay. I wake up and from the dream where I don't remember a lot of the dream. I just remember right before I
Mhm.
woke up and I was laying down and
Mm.
screaming. Like not in reality. I was screaming in my dream, not
Mhm.
actually, cuz I would have woken Phoebe up and, you know.
Can you
But
imagine? Oh my
so I'm
gosh.
screaming. Oh,
Beautiful.
I know it would totally
I
freak her out.
know.
You know those dreams where you're screaming at the top of your lungs and it still doesn't feel like you're loud
Yes.
enough?
Yep. That was exactly what I had.
Yes.
Mhm.
That's
And
crazy. So I'm
when I ripped my shirt
screaming
off, I was
at,
also really hot. Like, I was sweating. I was drenched every night. So, yeah,
yeah,
same thing.
yes, drenched. That's how I was. So I'm screaming at the top of my lungs and I'm like, get out of here. Like, get out. You're not welcome here. You have no authority here. I'm just screaming for whatever it is. And it's like inside my body, not in the room around me. I don't see anything like dark. I don't see any creature. It's a feeling like I feel it. And I'm being told that there is a spirit inside of me. And so I'm screaming for it to get out. And I remember right before I wake up, in my dream, I'm screaming and then I'm praying, Jesus, like, help me, help me, help me. And I remember him saying, that dark spirit has been inside of you since you were teeny tiny, like a little girl. And it is very, very, very strong. And he was like, but let me show you how much stronger you are. And then I woke up. And that's when I'm like drenched. So I'm anxious when I wake up. I'm not well. I'm walking around the room trying to calm myself down. I'm fully aware of what's going on at this point. Like I've had a bad dream. This feels really spiritual. Now I have
Mhm.
anxiety. And I'm trying not to wake my child up. And so I just kind of laid there for hours and just prayed and prayed and prayed and prayed. And then I didn't feel well for a few days after that.
Yeah.
But yeah, that was the dream part of
Ugh.
it.
Horrible. Just awful. Have you
Yeah.
ever had dreams like that before? Like, at all? No.
No. I have weird dreams, but nothing super spiritual like
Yeah.
that. Um like the bugs in the ears in the
Mhm.
MRI, I would have something like that before, but I would just like, whoa, that was a weird dream, and then I'll just go about
Yeah.
my life. But at that particular one, it freaked me out. And so I got to a point where I had prayed about it. Whereas before, I don't think I would have. I would have just pushed through until I thought about something
Mhm.
else, you know,
Yeah.
and just like pushed it
Do you
down.
feel like the Lord was trying to get you to do something else after that moment. So when you woke up and you were sitting in prayer, like, did you feel like he was leading you to be in prayer or leading you to do something to get this spirit out, or it was just he's like, I'm working on it?
I think he got it out.
Mm.
And like you said, I'm working on it. I think I did
Yeah,
my part is what it felt like. And then I was like, that is, I gave it to him. I was like, I don't have any control over that besides prayer and complete dependence of please don't ever, like, I don't ever want to feel that way
yeah.
again. I don't ever want to have a dream like that again. I don't ever want to sit in that state of anxiety
No,
afterwards at night too when
you're
it's dark
alone.
and your house is quiet and everyone's asleep.
Yeah, and you're
Yeah.
trying to be strong for
Yeah.
your kids too. I think that's the hardest part. Um, so when I my stuff in January, I had what you described for probably like 2 weeks straight, every night.
Oh my, I can't imagine. I can't imagine because when I woke up, I felt like I let him handle the spiritual side and I was trying to calm myself down because it felt like someone was sitting on my chest. I remember laying on my back and being like, and feeling like I couldn't
Yeah.
catch my breath. And then it felt like I would try to swallow and I couldn't. It felt like my throat was
Yeah, your
closing
central
in.
like your nervous system was just completely shot.
Oh, just
And you
shot.
couldn't it's
Yes.
and your body is so tired after that happens. It's the
Mm-hmm.
closest I think people come to. I've never had a psychotic break, thank the Lord, but I think it's the closest I've
Mm-hmm.
ever come to one is feeling that like the feeling in your body when you're physically shaking and you have so much. I don't know if
Yeah.
you had that, but where you're like physically shaking afterward, like, and you're just, at least for me, it just comes up my
Yeah.
entire body and I get scared and I feel like my
Uh-huh.
mind is not my own and I'm not safe. And
Yeah.
all you can do in that moment is call on the Lord. And I
Yeah.
think for people who say that, oh my gosh, it's just really severe anxiety, I absolutely do think it is severe anxiety. But I truly think it's spiritual because I've had regular panic attacks all of my life. But the spiritual attacks that I've
Mm-hmm.
had, I had them when I was a kid, and then I had them again in January, February, and they're
Mm-hmm.
exactly like you described. It's horrible dreams, horrible imagery. Oh, mine was more like I could actually see stuff. Um, the feeling of it
Mm-hmm.
being inside you, you're screaming, you want to get it out, and just fully having to surrender and give it to God. And for me, the only thing, I couldn't sleep either. So what I would do is I would just stay up and I
Mm-hmm.
would read the Bible, just over and over and
Mm-hmm.
over again, Isaiah specifically. And I talk about that a lot. And I always come back to that book because I think, I don't know what my path is, but I don't know if I'll ever fully know, but I just keep coming back to that book and it's so heavy on spiritual warfare. And I think as Christians or believers, non believers, whatever you identify with, spiritual warfare is so real. And if you think it is not, and you think that there is nothing beyond our bodies, I, I I think it can be a huge disservice. At least for me, that's how I feel.
Mm-hmm.
Because for so long I pretended like it didn't exist because I was scared of it. And I just kept pushing it
Mm-hmm.
down and pushing it down. And when I finally took it head on, it was absolutely terrifying, but it was like I was almost left without, like, it just came to me. And I guess I don't want to be like, oh my gosh, if you don't believe it, that's terrible. That's not what I'm saying. It's more, it's just so real. And I think some people experience it more than others. And I don't really know why, but if you're experiencing it, I don't
Mm-hmm.
want you to feel crazy or alone because you literally think you're crazy.
Yeah.
Like you think, oh my gosh,
Mm-hmm.
I'm going wild. Like
I think,
something's wrong.
no, absolutely. And then you just sit in a perpetual state of
Yes.
OCD and anxiety for days after trying to just process what you went through because there's not a logical explanation laid out in front of you. It's more of a feeling like you're body and your mind had a spiritual and physical reaction at the
Yeah.
same time. And you're trying to process what that even means and how to never feel that way again, at
Yeah.
least for me. And I know when I had really bad anxiety, when I was waking up in the middle of the night, in between 2 and 3 every night for
Hmm.
months, having that same exact thing that I'm explaining, like waking up in a panic attack, but I didn't have the dreams
Yeah.
paired with it. And I did not have a relationship with the Lord paired with it. So I have been through the
Hmm.
physical experience of what I experienced the other night, but the spiritual part of it, I had not.
Yeah.
At least there was probably a block
Hmm.
there for me where I couldn't fully see it before when I was little or, a
Yeah.
teenager. But now that I know that it exists and it's a real thing and I'd been through it for 13 years, I don't know. It was the strangest thing. And I remember I finally fell back asleep around 4:15 and I had to get up
Hmm.
at 6:45. I think this was
Yeah. It was her first day
it
of
was
school.
Phoebe's first day of school. So a lot of that was, you can add in, I'm anxious about sending her back to school. And yes, absolutely. I think that definitely added to what was already happening. I had had a bad dream 3 days before. I had had anxiety for 3 days. Essentially, now I'm sending my child back to school for her first day of school, which is like when you send your kid to public school, it's just a different level
I
of
can. I
anxiety
can only
than
imagine.
all the fears and all of the things you have to process. It's just a different level of anxiety. And so I know all of that contributed to it. But what I was seeing and hearing, even from Jesus, like I know
Hmm.
he was there and speaking to me. It was, we'll never fully
Yeah.
understand spiritual warfare, right? And why it happens. But for me, it's like, I don't know if I was vulnerable enough already for an
Yeah.
attack from the enemy side, and also a veil to be lifted from Jesus's side of things, where it's like, okay, she's in a state where we can actually
Well, because
get
it
through to her.
takes
I don't
aligned
know.
action on your part to actually, you
Mm-hmm.
need to be a willing participant in it too. So I think you are maybe finally
Yeah.
at the point where God was like, okay, she wants this out. She's been praying to me constant. Like, I think she's in a place where, yes, you are already, but the devil,
Mm-hmm.
he does that. Like, he's so sneaky and good. And he's like, not good, but good at finding your weaknesses and just exploiting them. And so he's not going to attack you.
Yeah.
Just like anytime there's regular, they're going to find vulnerabilities and then pinpoint that. They're going to attack at night. They're going to
Mm-hmm.
attack in, the least armed
Mm-hmm.
state, right? And so of course he's going to attack you for
Mm-hmm.
your daughter's first day of school when you're already having anxiety, you're already, you know, having sleep
Mm-hmm.
deprivation. Like there, that's exactly how I was feeling in January and February because Forrest had been sleep. He had been sleeping. He had his like 4 month sleep regression at some point, and then
Mm-hmm.
he was finally sleeping through the night, and I got maybe 1 or 2 nights. And then that's when all my spiritual warfare started. And so I was like, oh my gosh, why would you do like, why is this happening to me? He's finally sleeping, and could sleep
Mm-hmm.
deprivation cause what I have seen? For maybe, but I know without a shadow of a doubt what I experienced was spiritual warfare, just like you did too. It's something you really can't explain any other way once you've been through it. And
Yeah.
did you ever feel, for me at the beginning, I was like, oh my gosh, what did I do? Did I do something wrong? Like, did I act the wrong way? Did I sin too much? Like, what was my sin? Like, how do I get rid of it? Like, did you ever feel like that or no?
No, I didn't feel any, and I know you're not saying
No.
shame, but like
No,
that's where
I
my
felt
mind
so
wraps
much
around with
shame.
that. Okay. I just didn't want to
No,
project
I
that
did. I
onto
did.
you.
I thought it was my fault.
Yeah. No, I didn't feel that way. I felt like I was about to receive an assignment
Mm.
from God, because I had been seeing things leading up to that, like a few weeks where I even, was talking to you. I think he's trying to tell me something, speak
Yeah.
something to me. I think he wants me to do something. And so, whatever it was, and I think he's still in that preparation state of showing me everything. I've seen some stuff since then where I'm like, okay, I see what you needed me to do there
Yeah.
or see there. But I was like, wait a second. He wants me to see something. He's trying to show me something. And I think whatever he wants me to fully see, the enemy did not want me to see
Absolutely.
it at all. And so I don't think that I was in a state where I was like repeatedly sinning, or you can add the anxiety factor and sure, but there wasn't anything really stressful going on in my life either. I truly believe the enemy did not want me to see whatever it was. And I know that Jesus knows when the enemy is going to attack us, and he fully intervened on
Yeah.
my behalf in that dream. It was almost like I didn't really have any, I didn't really need, I was just
Yeah.
minding my business,
Hmm.
right? And it was like, I don't even need, do I need to be
You're like, I
here
really don't want to be here.
essentially?
I want
Like,
to tap
for
out. I'm
this?
good.
Do I need to be here for this? Yeah. But so that's what it felt like to me. But also, anxiety has always been a massive
Yeah.
chain for me. And I don't think it's a sin.
No,
I
I don't
don't.
think so either.
It's a struggle. It's a struggle that I have dealt with for most of my life, and it is always a way that the enemy can attack me.
Hmm.
Always. If he can't get me in the subtle little ways, or, a straight up spiritual attack, he can always get me with anxiety, and he
Hmm.
knows that. And I feel like it was one of my last chains to break. And I still don't know if I fully broke it, but I felt like two things were happening at one time. He had an assignment for me, and while we were fully in it, he's like, lay down that
Hmm.
anxiety.
He's like,
Like,
let's
lay it
break it.
down. Like, let me break that chain
Hmm.
for you, because I can't ever break it. And for me, and that next morning after I sent Phoebe to school, I had one of my dear friends, Karina, pray with me. And she always says the most deep, intentional
Oh.
prayers that really make your soul feel alive and comforted. It's like a
Yeah.
warm blanket over you. It's like a
I love
sensory
that.
blanket. A weighted blanket is how her prayers felt. And I was like, the prayers made me feel better, but it also made me realize, like, I have to lay
Hmm.
this down. I have to get on my knees and give this to him, because if I don't, it's always going to
Yeah.
be there. And I'm sure, you can lay something down and still have to lay it down 1,000 more
Absolutely.
times. You're still going to have bad days. You're still going to have struggles. You're still going to, come back to that anxious state. Do I think that was my last dose of anxiety I'll ever get? No, no. But I feel like I finally figured out a way to handle it, because, when I was telling you in my testimony, when I would be anxious and have these panic attacks, and you're like, did you ever cry out to God? And I was like, no, that
Hmm.
scared me. I realized in that moment, now that I have a relationship with Jesus, like, it still
Yeah.
scares me. I never healed from that. I never addressed that. And so that next morning after she prayed, I just was on my knees, and I was just like, I wasn't sobbing, but I was,
Yeah.
crying. I was like, I don't I don't want this to be a chain for me anymore, but I want to be straight up, like, I'm scared to
Hmm.
hand this to you. And I know that is the
No, it's
weirdest thing to
not.
say, because,
I felt the same
well,
way.
people talk about surrender and they're like, it's freeing. And yes, it is. It is. But at the same time, I'm like, I'm terrified to hand this to you, because I feel like when I do, that's my last little bit of control. Like, I don't have it anymore. And for some reason, that really, really
Yeah.
terrified me.
No, I completely get it. I went through the exact same thing. When you fully surrender, it's like you're literally on your hands and knees, and you're like, please, I'm terrified. I don't know
Yeah.
how to do this, but I want to be freed of this. I can't have this anymore. But
Yeah.
I'm also scared that maybe if I give it to you, something worse is going to happen. So I know the bad right
Exactly.
now. And
And
I probably can handle it. And it's awful. And if it gets to the point where you're like, but I actually can't handle it. I don't want to ever do that again. I never want to go through that. So please take
yeah.
it. But I'm
Yeah.
terrified.
That's exactly how I felt. And I remember rewinding because I think I didn't touch on this part where I said I went to bed at 4:15. I woke up at
Mhm.
6:45 to get Phoebe up, and I'm getting her dressed for school. I'm walking down the stairs. I'm making her lunch, and I am so extremely dizzy. And so that's when I was like, Karina, will you please pray for me? Like I'm
Yeah.
not well physically or spiritually. And she did. And then I had that conversation with Jesus. And when I was praying on my hands and knees, it was, when you close your eyes and you can still kind of like see
Yes.
light in pockets
Hmm.
around you. And it was completely dark when I closed my eyes. And that scared me. I get on my knees, I go to pray, I'm giving this over to Jesus, and it goes dark. And I'm like, okay, I'm scared. Obviously, I'm
Hmm.
scared. So it's like the enemy tried to get me
Like
one
his Hail
last
Mary.
time with feeling so extremely, yes. And so as soon as I was done praying, and I don't know if this has anything to do with it, but I started like
Mm,
coughing excessively.
it probably does.
And I was like, this is so weird. And I remember reading in that
Yeah.
deliverance book that we ordered all of these
Yes.
symptoms. And I remember when I first read it, I'm like, what
You were like,
in
I don't like
the
this book. This
woo
is, you're like,
woo
what did
kinds
McKenzie
of
make me
thing?
order? This is crazy. Uh,
Well, it was
it is a
like,
little extreme.
yeah, it is. It's still a little extreme, but I was like, wow, I experienced that. I mean, I don't know what else to say except for I sat
Yeah.
through that.
It's like you actually have physical and it's like, oh, wait. Oh my gosh, dude, we started this with my parasite cleanse story. You literally had a spiritual parasite cleanse.
Hmm.
That's
Oh,
what it was.
absolutely. That is exactly what it felt like. And in the dream, that's what was
Mhm.
happening to me.
You were going through a detox of a spirit that had probably been with you for a
Yeah,
really, really long time.
really long time.
Hmm.
Yeah. And he told me that information and it was almost like, why did you tell me that? Like I don't want to
Yeah.
know that,
Yeah.
because I tend to with trauma and anything uncomfortable or outside of my level of
Hmm.
logic, I tend to
Yeah.
disassociate. That's how I cope. I'm an avoidant person. So when I say things like, why would you tell me that? Or like, I'm scared. That's just how my brain processes that type of trauma. And I do believe that there is spiritual trauma that happens to us all the time and we don't even
No, I
realize.
completely agree. And then I think how you are avoidant, I take it head on, but I internalize it all. So I think it's all my fault.
Mhm.
And then I try
Mhm.
to fix it. And so much
Mhm.
of this is not our fault. Like yes, of course, there's, sin involved. Absolutely. But God's not a punisher. He's not punishing us. He's not accusing us of anything. We truly have an enemy on this earth, not even on this, but like in the
Mhm.
spiritual world. And we are under attack. Like that is this, it's simply put. Um, and shame is like the devil's favorite tool too. He loves
Mhm.
to shame. And so at least like for me, that's almost how he
Yeah.
can always get me is by like making me feel really ashamed. And then
Mhm.
also the anxiety is the same with you. And I think it's so
Mhm.
interesting that you just recently went through this. And if it's anything, which it sounds almost identical to mine, if it's anything like mine, once I was able to break free from it and really have that solace and of after going through all that and praying and talking to God. And after those 2 weeks that I went through, it was the craziest detox I feel like of my entire life. I actually
Mhm.
did I tell you about my visualization that I had? Okay, we
Mm-mm.
can talk actually, let's
Mm-mm.
talk about that.
No.
So it was right at the end, so right before it stopped. I was desperate to get sleep and to just stop in general. because it was just
Mhm.
I was literally
Yeah.
willing to do. I remember my mom telling me that the devil, like, he's gonna almost like try and make a deal with you. And I was like, that sounds crazy. Like, he's no, this is not. I just have really bad anxiety. I mean, maybe he is, like, I don't know. And but then I thought for a split second, oh my gosh, I'm so miserable. I almost just like want to give in and stop fighting it. I'll just go
Mhm.
with whatever. If he obviously doesn't want me doing this podcast, like that seems to be the biggest issue. So
Mhm.
I'm just not going to do it. I'm just
Mhm.
not going to do it. I'm going to give in and
Mhm.
it's fine. I'll just go back to living my life. And when that happened, I ended up, I can't remember exactly what it was, but I was talking to my mom and it was that funny like YouTube guy that I sent you, the random videos. Do you remember? I think his name's James something. But he's from Africa, and so he does deliverance ministry.
Yeah. Yep. Yep.
Yeah, and so he again is
Mhm.
very intense. And he speaks in tongues,
Mhm.
and there's a couple things that I'm a little hesitant on. He is so strongly convicted. I know that the Lord is speaking through him, but some of the stuff he does, I don't feel fully aligned with for myself. But he was such a godsend in that time for me. Um, and also reading Isaiah at the same time, talking about iniquity and diving into that. I ended up doing this prayer with Evan, and it was a long prayer. I mean, it was probably like a 2-hour prayer. I'm not even kidding. And we
Mhm.
just prayed. Just to chew. Sorry, I'm gonna move Maggie because she's keeps licking herself, and I know this is gonna pick it up. But we were in our bedroom and we were praying this prayer, and it was just confessing every single sin of our ancestors that we could even think of. I mean, I literally got to the point where I was like, I don't even know where to start. So I'm gonna start with my own sin that I know that the Lord has placed on my heart, and I'm gonna confess that. And I'm not gonna say what it was just because I think sin looks different for everybody. I just wrote them all out and what I felt convicted of. And I started there and I was saying these like it was a guided prayer session essentially. And so you repeat a lot, you use scripture. And then I wrote out a lot of
Mhm.
I literally just looked up like every categorization of sin and I was like, Evan, I want us both to like go down this list and truly confess. And I was like, look, the worst that can happen is like nothing
Yeah.
happens, right? So we're praying these prayers. I'm literally confessing everything. And I was like, I know I have this in my lineage. Like, I know I have alcoholism in my lineage. I know I have abuse. I know I have murder. I know I have all of this in my lineage. And I want to confess that because I don't think anybody in my entire family on either side has ever taken accountability for their sin and generational trauma. Maybe my grandparents, like and my parents, but like before, like I don't
Mhm.
think there was any of that before. And so when I did
Mhm.
that, I started having so I they come to me in visions and I always thought it was like I think I've talked about this a little bit before, but I always thought I had a crazy imagination. It's not. It's actually I can just see the spiritual realm, I guess, and I see so clearly this figure that I knew I had been seeing it since I started that manifestation course. And I thought it was linked to the course. And so I was like, because that's why I was so scared to do it. Cause I was like, God, why are you making me do this manifestation course? There's something tied to it. I don't know what's wrong.
Mhm.
After talking to some people, they were multiple, like 2 or 3 people told me to go see a psychic. And I was like, I don't want to see it. Like, what do you mean? I don't want to see this thing. Like, I want nothing
Mhm.
to do with it. And, um, they were like, "Well, maybe it's your shadow." And I was like, "Oh my gosh, it does kind of look like me, but I'm not going to describe it, but it different, just gross. Like it
Mhm.
looks like a demon." And anyway, I've been feeling this thing, being worried I was going to see this thing, seeing it in my mind, never in the physical realm. And that thing that I had been basically haunted by for the past at least 4 months since Forrest was born,
Mhm.
that thing I saw it so clearly, like so clearly on our
Mm.
landing, at our steps. So like our house, there's 2 steps that go up on a landing and then go up.
Yeah. Oh, I know exactly what
Yep.
you're
And
talking about.
I so clearly saw it. And I was like, Lord, I just kept saying my prayer, and I just kept praying. And it was in the prayer, there was something about casting out by fire and just like using fire and the imagery. It was like I was sweating. I was like praying with Evan. I was like, in the name of Jesus, the blood of Jesus, like, I kept saying this prayer, and and I literally like physically felt like pressure of pushing that energy out of our house. And
Mm-hmm.
I literally saw it leave our home and through, like, it went all the way out to the road, and then it was just like it was gone. And
Do you think that's what came with you to my house?
I know, because it was well, maybe. I think that is the spirit that has haunted me my entire life since I was a baby. And I was so scared about talking about it for the longest time because people think you're absolutely nuts when you talk about this kind of stuff. But I so clearly saw it. Like, and two, I need
Mm-hmm.
to like go find, I'll literally screenshot in the Facebook group of the course I was taking. I was like, is anyone seeing stuff? Like, is this, again, it's a very woo woo course. So they're all very spiritual. Probably not all
Yeah.
good that it's
Yeah.
spiritual, but um, who knows? That was judgmental. I think everybody's trying to be good, but
But I mean, yeah, but the enemy has
yes,
normalized that in society. Psychics,
yes,
mediums, like they can all see things, and people are like, oh, that's just their
yeah,
gift. But if you're a visualizer, like that's one of your gifts. I think any gift that the Lord gives you, the enemy can
a
also use as a tool
1000%.
of
Well,
distraction.
I think for me, because I've always pushed that gift away, I didn't even think, I thought it was a curse actually. Um, Now I
Mm-hmm.
obviously it is a gift. It is not something that I can just tap into or call. Um, it is given.
Right.
If I'm
Yeah.
following it up or trying to see something or trying to do things, it's not from God. Like, it's very clearly not.
Right.
I've
I
never
agree.
tried to do that, to be totally honest. Truly feel like the Lord has protected me from seeing that spiritual realm for a
Mm-hmm.
really long, like fully seeing it. I've never seen it as clearly. Well, now I have, since that moment. Like, it's like like the veil was lifted, right? And I think he protected me
Mm-hmm.
because I wasn't ready. And at that point I was so ready and I was so fully surrendering, and I had, confessed my own, and
Mm-hmm.
confession in the sense of, oh, I'm confessing literally everything. For the longest time, I thought, oh, I'm so ashamed. I'm shameful. Like, I need to confess this, and I'm a horrible person, and all of that. No, 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 no. I'm confessing, like, I need you,
Mm-hmm.
and I don't know what else to do. And in that moment, it was like once that happened, everything changed for me. And
Mm-hmm.
yeah, I can't even explain. It's just crazy. Um, and it's so funny. I didn't tell you that. I thought I told you that, but I think I was scared
Mm-mm.
to tell you.
Well, I mean, I get it.
Yeah.
It's especially since you're seeing
Yeah.
things. It's it's not something I feel like too you have to fully admit that that's your
Yeah.
reality. And it's hard to get to that point
Yeah.
too.
And then you're also trying to see, am I going crazy? Like, is there a little part of me, and not crazy, but like, do I have a mental health condition, right? Do I have something that's causing me? Because
Mhm.
that was something I went back and forth on too, of like, maybe I am, maybe there's something wrong. Um, and I just
Mhm.
sat in prayer and I was in it, but there's so much of this in the Bible. And I just kept going back to it. Every single thing. Mental
Mhm.
health is mental health disorders. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I'm schizophrenic or something like that? Or what if I'm this? And it doesn't come in like doses and then go away. It doesn't like only
Mhm.
happen when you're having very demonic experiences, like, and then go away. It's
Mhm.
pretty consistent, or you'll have like you'll go up and down. But everything that I laid out between the mental health disorders and actual spiritual warfare, it seems like me thinking I had a mental health disorder was like it trying to excuse or justify what I had gone through. And so I think I was, I haven't told a lot of people about that, because I haven't told anybody really, except my mom and Evan, obviously, because he was going through something crazy. Because he went through almost the exact same thing, but with his family stuff. like a month and a half after that. So it's just, I don't know what
Mm-hmm.
it is. But also, we're not the only ones. You and I are not the only ones that are going through this. I see it all over TikTok. I see it all over Instagram.
Mm-hmm.
There is some kind of, awakening that's going on right now. And that I really truly
Mm-hmm.
believe that Jesus
Yeah.
is lifting that veil up, and
Mm-hmm.
he's showing us the spiritual realm. And I don't know
Mm-hmm.
exactly what fight gets to fight it, to know our enemy. And I think everybody has a different
Mm-hmm.
path, right? Like, we don't all need to go out on the front lines of spiritual war, like go fight these, spirit. Like, that's not what God is calling, at least me,
Right.
to do. I think He's calling me to speak on it
Right.
and to normalize the experiences that people go
Mm-hmm.
through. Um,
Mm-hmm.
Normalize talking about it, not normalize the experience.
Yeah. Being open to talking about it and receiving that
Yeah,
information as someone who's listening to someone else. And circling back where you said, did you feel like something was wrong? Because that's how, you process
hmm,
all of it. I feel like I try to distract myself
yeah,
fully where I don't ever acknowledge it. I will also like try to isolate myself. Tate had OT that morning and I was like rattled at this point. I had just prayed, but then you have those after effects of your
yeah,
teeth are chattering and you feel cold and you're like shaking. And so I didn't really feel well. I was still dizzy. I'm like, I don't even know if I should
yeah,
drive right now. But I had 30 minutes and I was like, I'm just going to cancel his OT. And I was like, you know what? And this was right after I prayed, break this chain. I'm scared. I need to do my part
hmm,
as well as, co-missioning with the Lord on this earth where it's like, yes, I've given it to him. I've gotten on my knees. I've let it out. I've asked him to break this chain for me because I can't
yeah,
do it out
yeah,
of my own will. Like I just can't. But there is like I have to do my
hmm,
part. And so I went right back to my old ways of how I handle this. And I was like, you know what? No, like I'm going to go to OT. I can
you
do hard
can't.
things when I don't feel well. I don't have to isolate. And I was like, I don't feel strong mentally or physically. I'm not convinced that I am strong, but I'm going to go. I'm going to go to OT. And as the day went on, I felt a little bit better and a little bit better because I didn't, like your mom said, where she was like, I feel like the devil's going to make a deal
Yeah,
with you. I don't feel like I had enough clarity in my mind to have even heard anything like that. But I think the fact that I didn't resort to all my old ways that kept me stuck in that
yeah,
state was kind of like me being like,
no
no
deal.
deal.
Yeah,
Even if it's I move an inch that day, where it's like I don't cancel OT. Obviously, I'm not moving mountains or casting out demons, which maybe I'll get to that point one day, but just like an inch of trying to do something
that moving that
different
inch is
is,
more than you've been able to move in your
is
entire
enough.
life.
Yeah.
Like, that's
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
incredible to even be able to do that. And it's the Holy
Well, and
Spirit
it
within
doesn't,
you that's giving you, it's just,
it
ugh,
is.
like, gives me chills thinking about it.
Yeah.
Um,
But so then I felt like I remember I did like a vagus nerve reset,
mhm.
just trying to, physically get back to feeling okay. And then I was like, I'm going to read because I always read when I want to feel better. And I'll either pick one of two things. I'll pick something that's actually going to fuel my spirit and my brain and,
Yeah,
make me feel better, or I'll disassociate into a book that
fair.
is just like, not, yeah. And
Sometimes you
sometimes you
need
need both.
it.
I picked up this book that my sister-in-law brought me maybe the week before all this happened. And I hadn't gotten around to reading it yet, but it's called Hind's Feet on High Places. And it's by Hannah Hurnard. I believe she was born in England um, in the early 1900s. And basically, I think it's a story about her and her walk to finding Jesus. And when I started reading it, I was like, oh my gosh, this is me. Like, this has been me my whole
Oh my
life.
gosh.
And so I so clearly, he had that book ready for me at a
Mhm.
time that I needed it. And I do want to read a
Yeah.
little
Yeah, I would
excerpt
love
of
it.
it, but I don't want to take up too much time. Um, I'll kind of jump around, but the first chapter it starts, and I mean, this hit me immediately when I started reading. It was like a revelation, but it's called Invitation to the High Places. And it says, this is the story of how Much Afraid. So that's the name of the main character, the girl, Much Afraid, escaped from her fearing relatives and went with the shepherd to the high places where perfect love cast out fear. That was the first sentence
Mm.
in the book. And so it's really interesting. I'll take a brief pause so I can find this one part where I was like, "Oh
Is
my
that the
gosh,
picture you
this is
sent to me?
me." But basically she's like tormented. Well, that was like, so this is kind of explaining what she's been like her whole life. And you know what? I'll just read
Yeah.
it. But so for several years, Much Afraid had been in the service of the chief shepherd, whose great flocks were pastured down in the valley of humiliation. She lived with her friends and fellow workers. She loved her work and desired intensely to please the chief shepherd. But happy as she was in most ways, she was conscious of several things which hindered her in her work and caused her much secret distress and shame. In the first place, she was a cripple with feet so crooked that they often caused her to limp. And so the author in real life, she had a speech impediment. And so she felt like she could never really fully serve the Lord because she couldn't
Oh
speak well. And this was in the early
my gosh.
1900s. So I'm sure society was a lot
Yeah.
harder on that. She was also unsightly blemish of a crooked mouth, which greatly disfigured both expression and speech, and was sadly conscious that these blemishes must be a cause of astonishment and offense to many who knew that she was in service of the great shepherd. Most earnestly, she longed to be completely delivered from these shortcomings and to be made beautiful, gracious, and strong, as were so many of the shepherd's other workers, and above all, to be made like the chief shepherd himself. But she feared that there could be no deliverance from these two disfigurements, and that they must continue to mar her service always. And so basically, I'll sum it up, but her fearing relatives are basically spirits, evil spirits that come and distract her of her work with the Lord, essentially. And her work with the Lord is to just be in service of
Yeah.
him, to be like him, to love him, she wasn't doing any crazy ministry work at the time in this story. But the relatives come back in and they distract her by fear, aggression, basically oppression, and like forcing themselves
Yeah.
on her life. And she is just so afraid, she doesn't know how to get rid of them. And the chief shepherd is like, when you're ready, I'll pass by your cottage and you call for me and I'll come get you. And so her relatives bombard the house and he passes by the cottage and she was too afraid to call out to him. And so she's in a moment where they're just completely spiritually attacking her, and her neighbor comes by and she looks inside, and whatever she sees, it's not of the Lord,
Mhm.
it's evil. And she screams into the house, "You have to leave. You can't be here." And so they all get up and they walk out because they can't stay. And so she's sitting at home in the dark. She's shaking, she's shivering, her teeth are chattering. She feels like she's suffocating. She feels like she's choking. And the neighbor that saved her was like, just go to sleep and try again tomorrow.
Mhm.
Like you'll be okay. And so the next day she gets up, and so it's called Flight in the Night is that chapter. And it says, for hours, poor Much Afraid lay sleepless on her bed, too bruised in mind and body to rest in one position, but tossing and turning wearily from side to side until long after midnight. Somewhere at the back of her mind was a dreadful uneasiness, as though there was something she ought to remember, but was unable to do so. When at last she fell asleep, this thought haunted her. She woke suddenly, an hour or two later, her mind intensely alert, conscious of agonizing pain such as she had never known before. The thorn in her heart was throbbing and aching in a manner she could scarcely bear. It was as though the pain was hammering out something which at first she was still too confused to be able to understand. Then all of a sudden, in a terrible flash, it became clear to her, and she found herself whispering over and over again, "The shepherd came and called, as he promised, but I didn't go to him or give any answer. Supposing he thought that I had changed my mind and didn't want to go with him. Supposing he has gone and left me behind, gone without me." The shock of this thought was awful. This was the thing she had forgotten. He would not be able to understand why she had not gone out to him as he told her. Of course, he would think that she was afraid. Perhaps he was gone already and alone. Much afraid, turned icy cold, and her teeth chattered, but it was the pain in her heart which was the most awful part in her distress. It seemed to suffocate her as she lay there in bed. She sat up shivering with cold, and with the horror of the thought, she could not bear it if he had gone and left her behind. Which is
Exactly what
like
happened.
to
Yeah.
both of us.
And what's so wild, who do you think the neighbor is?
I think it's just a voice of reason. So basically, they live in this little village with all neighboring people of
Hmm.
service to the Lord. And then in the beginning, it said that her neighbors were mercy and peace or
Yeah.
something. So I feel like it was probably one of
That's so
those.
interesting.
So, anyway, she goes and she approaches the chief shepherd, basically like, "I'm so sorry. Like, I know you called." And he was like,
I'm
I'm
still
I'm
here. I'm
here.
not going to leave you. I'll never forsake you.
Yeah, I would never leave you behind. I would never leave you alone. And that rose that she mentions, like the thorn
Hmm.
in her heart, it was a seed that he had put in prior to that night. And he says, great love with a capital L does not come without pain. You have to get to the pain to get to the love.
Oh my
Which
gosh.
is like, if you think about it, I mean, not to over like simplify it. I mean, that's pretty
No, it's
much
so true.
it. It's as easy, as simple, and as profound
Mhm.
as that. And there's always going to be the in between, which is just us
Yeah.
waiting on our shepherd.
Yeah. Oh my gosh. I'm so glad we were able to finally have this conversation. And,
Yeah.
um, oh, we didn't even talk about, like, we were supposed to record this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Um,
Yeah. Tell him
yeah, we
about
were supposed
that.
to record this last week. And, I literally it was like out of nowhere. I was eating dinner, got up after I ate dinner, and I was like struck with the worst headache and vertigo. And I had not had, I mean, like again, hadn't had that
Mm-hmm.
since January. When I was going through all that, and I was like, Evan, I don't feel good. Like I have to sit down. And then I was like, did I eat something weird? I was like, no, I'd had that. I think it was I don't remember what I ate, but it was like something I'd eaten multiple times. And I was like, this is so weird.
Yeah.
And I was like, I have to go upstairs. And I was just like, read my Bible because I was like, I feel like this is a spiritual attack. And then I was like, gosh, McKenzie, you're being so extra. You're not. And so I almost was like, let's not do it tonight. And then I was like, no, I think it's, it's a weird spiritual thing, but I'm going to work through it. Got over it. Um, because again, it was nothing compared to what I had been through before. And so I was able to like calm my nervous system down
Right.
pretty quickly. And I was putting Noah down and you texted me and you were like, hey, I'm so sorry. I have to reschedule. Ross just got called into work, really random. And
Mm-hmm.
I was like, oh my gosh, well, that's crazy because I literally had this like I had literally had a headache and vertigo. I'm almost positive it was spiritual attack. And you were like, shut up.
Mm-hmm.
No way. That's what I had. I had vertigo and a headache. So
Yeah.
it's just, even wild. It just goes to show like we're having the same, we don't live in the same place. We don't do the same thing. Like it is so clearly
Mm-hmm.
spiritual.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it's just so wild. Sorry, that was like a segue or a tangent from the book you're reading.
No. I mean, it's I think it circles all the way back to what you said is if you don't realize you don't even have to be a believer. You don't have to be
Hmm.
a Christian. You don't have to believe in God. But a lot of people believe in
Yeah.
energy, good and bad, positive and
Hmm.
negative. You can believe whatever you want, but if you don't believe that there is something spiritual happening around you, that is the vulnerable
I agree, but that's where
population.
the devil wants you. That's where the bad energy wants you.
And I think it's so we've even talked about this where I went through this period where I was having a really hard time with
Hmm.
devotionals and going to church and listening to podcasts. I really poured into a lot of outside resources outside of the
Yeah.
Bible of getting to know God. And I hit a wall where I'm like, there's nothing wrong with that stuff. Don't get me wrong, but I got to a point where I was relying more on the outside sources to tell me who God was rather than allowing him that space to tell me that. And so I had a really hard time and I was like, God, I just I want to know who you are. Will you show me? And I remember him saying, in time, yes, but let me show you who the devil is. And that's when I started reading the Screw Tape
Yes.
letters. And it just so clearly hit me where it's like, that is such a part of our walk as believers. We have to know the devil, the enemy, to be able to do
Yeah.
this.
Yeah.
And again, we have to rely on Jesus. He is ultimately in control. We are dealing with a defeated enemy, but that doesn't mean that he's not going to try and attack us on a
And it
daily
doesn't mean he's
basis. And
weak.
if we're not prepared, exactly. And so to not have knowledge on it and to not be prepared is probably one of the worst things you can set yourself up for as a
Hmm.
believer. And I feel like I just had to learn that
No, me
the
too.
hard way
Same.
where, yeah, where it was something that I was like, oh, God can handle that. Like I don't need to
And
be a
he's
part
like,
of
"Yeah,
that.
I can handle it.
And that was
I
so
can handle
naive.
it as long as you're a willing
Yeah.
participant, but you have to meet me in the middle. Like, you have to
Yeah.
I gave you free will."
Yeah. And that's what's so wonderful about a relationship with him is it's like with our kids. Sometimes they have to be
Yeah.
uncomfortable and learn hard things and we can hold their hands and be there. If we do everything for them, they won't ever build their confidence and the skills they need to handle the next situation
Mhm.
that's scary or hard or uncomfortable. It's the exact same
Yeah.
thing.
He is such a perfect parent.
But it doesn't mean we wouldn't jump in front of a moving bus to save
No.
our kids. It's just like exactly how he is with us. Of course, he's going to intervene when we're in
Mhm.
danger, and that can be spiritual
Oh, I
sometimes.
absolutely.
Um, but yeah, I would still be in the same naive mindset that I was when I was 17 years old if I didn't open my eyes, get uncomfortable, confess that, hey, I'm actually
Mhm.
terrified of giving you control of this because there is some part of me that is terrified of the spiritual realm and like of how powerful
Yeah.
God is. I mean, you read in the Bible all the time where people are in complete fear. They're shaking whenever they
Mhm.
encounter God. And there's this part where Jesus tells Mary Magdalene, he's like, go tell the disciples that I have risen. And it says she is terrified and joyous at the
Mhm.
same time. And that is exactly how I feel about the Lord. And the only other scenario to compare that to is when you bring a child into this
Yes.
earth. It is the
Oh,
most
you're so
magical,
right.
amazing thing. I'm so joyous, but I am so
Terrified.
utterly terrified at the
It's
same
so
time.
funny you say that because I was talking to Evan not too long ago. No, it was on our way to Forest Spring, so it was a couple months ago. And he was like, "I really, how Forest Spring always says, like, Jesus is coming back soon, guys. Like, he's coming back." And I mean, a lot
Mhm.
of people say that, but he especially says that. And so
Yeah.
Evan was like, I'm just so excited. And I was like, really? I'm terrified. And he was like,
Terrified.
what? What are you terrified? And I was like, how are you? I mean, I'm so excited. And like the thought of that is incredible, but
It's
I'm
both.
terrified. Like, I'm absolutely terrified.
Yeah. What does that look like? How, where, I think like, what if my kids are
Yeah,
not with me?
exactly.
When that, there's all these things, it's like they can
Mhm.
coexist at the same time. You can be completely and utterly terrified and hopeful and joyous at the
Huge
same
truth.
time. And yeah, that's what's amazing about the design of human
Yeah.
beings.
Yeah. It's so incredible just the way that
Mm.
he works and the way he moves and the way he shows up in our lives and this path that we've both taken, we so similarly in a way.
Mhm.
Yeah, just the fact that we're even here together talking about this on this podcast, and it blows my mind still to this day. But this conversation was a really
Yeah,
good one. And I think, you know,
it was
yeah, if you're
really good.
listening and you're like, oh my gosh, I want to know him, but I'm scared to truly know him.
Mm.
Just know, yeah, it's not fully easy. It's not, you're not
You're not
alone
alone.
though. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
going to be hard. It's going to be scary. It is
Yeah.
scary. But when you truly know him, it's so, and again, I don't think we'll ever fully know him until we're, in heaven and we're there and we'll never fully understand it. But
Mhm.
the best place you can start is just by talking to him and asking, like, God, I want to fully know you fully. And
Mhm.
I surrender.
Yeah, and I think to leave a little bit of hope at the end of this, because it is a scary conversation when talking about a defeated enemy and spiritual warfare, because it
Yeah.
is scary and you hear this stuff, and me 10 years earlier would be like, "Oh, I
Yeah.
can't listen to that. Like that terrifies me." So, what kind of hope and encouragement would you give someone that is kind of new to this territory?
I would start, well, there's probably two different things. The first one is what my mom told me when I was going through all this. And it was like, there will come a point where you will be woken up in the middle of the night and you'll have that anxiety or that feeling, because the devil never stops. He's always going to be knocking. He's never going to stop. Like, you're always going to have those forces, those bad energy forces at work. And there will come a point where you wake up, you say your prayer, and then you roll over and you go to sleep because you have done your part, and God is
Amen.
fighting that battle for you.
Oh,
And it gives me a chills even thinking
oh,
about
I
it,
love
but
that. I
it's so
love
true.
that. That's so simple and so
Mhm.
powerful at the same
Yeah.
time.
And I am at
I
that
love
point,
that.
which is incredible. Like,
Mm,
I really will.
yeah,
And it almost makes me want to cry, but he does, like, once you get
yeah.
past that and you put in the work and you give it to God, and he will fight for you. He is already fighting for you, but he just, once you fully let
Hmm.
go of that control, because right now you're still trying to do it yourself. Once you give it to him and let him fully fight for
Hmm.
you, you will be able to roll over and go back to sleep. And then the second one is
Yeah.
actually in James. So when we were talking about this, I felt called to read James, and it's James, chapter 1, verse 2. And so it says, "Consider it a great joy, my brothers and sisters, whenever you experience various trials, because you know that the testing of your faith produces endurance. And let endurance have its full effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing." And so this is verse 5. "Now, if any of you lacks wisdom, he should ask God, who gives to all generously and ungrudgingly, and it will be given to him. But let him ask in faith without doubting, for the doubter is like the surging sea, driven and tossed by the wind. That person should not expect to receive anything from the Lord, being double minded and unstable in his ways." Doesn't mean you can't doubt. It's okay to have doubts, but give those up to the Lord. And I think it's just such a
Hmm.
great reminder when I read that after us talking about going through all of this. It's like faith produces endurance, and let endurance have its full
Hmm.
effect, so that you may be mature and complete, lacking nothing. And that is what Jesus brings to us. And without
Hmm.
the endurance, you wouldn't know everything that you've had. Or without going through all of that, kind of going back to the story that you were talking about with the pain, not knowing the pain, you can't experience full love.
Mhm.
And yeah, that's what I would say. What about you?
And
Yeah.
redemption.
Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, I think I asked because I needed
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
advice.
Good. Okay, good.
So, I'm not gonna add or
Okay.
subtract to that. I think
Chef's kiss.
chef's kiss.
Thank you, Meredith and the Holy Spirit and James.
All willing
Exactly.
participants.
Well, I feel like
I
this is a
love
great way
it.
to wrap it up. Thank you so much for you guys for listening. I
Mhm.
know this is a little bit of a little bit heavier than we typically do. So, but I
Yeah.
think it's necessary, and I
Mm.
a willing participant of his kingdom. So, hopefully, you guys don't
Yeah.
think I'm crazy.
Amen. We're all a little
I
bit
know.
crazy. And if you are, then I'm right
I
there
know.
with
Lock us up
you.
together. Maybe we'll get we could be real me's at the mental ward.
Yeah.
Thanks for being here with us today. If something resonated, maybe a sentence, a silence, or a story, hold on to that. If you felt seen or stirred or simply curious, we hope you'll join us again. Until then, stay open, stay tender, and remember, there's always a seat for you at the table.